Championship hangover? Nah, they're not slowing down in Athens. Actually, Kirby Smart is only stepping on the gas right now. On Monday, Georgia landed the number one quarterback in America, five-star Dylan Raiola out of Phoenix, Arizona. The quarterback room at Georgia is stacked. But Kirby's no stranger to crowded quarterback rooms. Let's bring on coaching insider Jesse Simonton. Jesse, what do you think Kirby Smart has learned about how to handle a QB room from his earlier days at Georgia when he signed elite arms like Jacob Eason, Jake Fromm, Justin Fields, and even JT Daniels, who transferred in?
I think the biggest thing Kirby Smart learned is that you just keep stacking five-star quarterbacks, and eventually you're probably going to hit on them. I think there's some revisionist history in terms of how the Justin Fields, Jake Fromm situation played out. Jake Fromm took Georgia to a national championship game as a freshman. You just weren't going to bench that guy. Should they have handled Fields a little bit differently in terms of when he played as a freshman, his usage? I think Jim Chaney did him no favors there, and that's why Fields ultimately decided to transfer. But Kirby just knows this is a talent acquisition business. The more hits you have, the more swings you have, I should say, eventually you're going to hit. And I think Dylan Raiola is the highest ranked guy of this crop. And he's considered a transcendent generational talent. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, he is a transcendent generational talent. Not only the number one quarterback in America, but also the number one overall player in the On3 industry rankings. All right, let's play a little game of what if. We could do this all day if we wanted to, but what if Carson Beck goes out there, balls out this year, gets drafted in the NFL, leaves Georgia, next spring, next offseason, you got a quarterback room that consists of Brock Vandagriff, Gunnar Stockton, Dylan Raiola, and Ryan Puglisi. How does this work out for Kirby Smart?
It's a good problem to have, Josh. And I think that would be the perfect ideal scenario for Kirby Smart. If you gave him a little truth serum, have four guys, four capable quarterbacks. I'm skeptical that Ryan, the other freshman in the 2024 class, is going to ultimately stick around. I just think there's going to be some folks that get into his ear that say, hey, I know you really like Georgia. I know you have a great connection with Mike Bobo and that staff, but let's not burn our one-time red shirt just because you want to go there and compete against the number one five-star guy, top-rated prospect in the 2024 class. So we'll see if he sticks. But if he doesn't stick, I think you're probably going to see a situation that the quarterback I would keep an eye on is Gunnar Stockton, because, again, he's going to have the most eligibility remaining. I think in your kind of fantasy scenario for Georgia fans, Carson Beck does light it up this year. It would not surprise me at all if he's a one-and-done. Spent 3 years in the program. You have a great season, go to the NFL. I think it would then become a Brock Vandagriff versus Dylan Raiola situation. And maybe you see what happens at Georgia in 2024, what's kind of unfolding at Texas right now. He and Arch are kind of waiting in the wings, and it's Quinn's job, could be Brock's job in 24, and then Raiola takes over from there.
Yeah. Now, the way the transfer portal works is, though, there's a lot of demand right when the season ends for these top arms. So do you think a seasoned player like a Brock Vandagriff or a Gunnar Stockton has a better option of going somewhere where they know they have immediate playing time, going to be the guy, rather than waiting it out until spring to battle it out with Dylan Raiola and Ryan Puglisi?
For Gunnar in particular, I do believe that to be the case. If Brock shows well as the backup at Georgia this year and believes that he could be the guy to lead a national championship team, he's a local kid, played at Athens Christian, dad coaches right there, in town. I think his situation is a little more unique.
All right. Well, one thing we know about Kirby, though, is he's going to play the best guy. He's had a lot of bodies come through Athens, but a majority of the snaps have been played by guys like Jake Fromm and Stetson Bennett over the last 2 or 3 years. So those guys weren't really considered the elite of the elite. I know Jake Fromm was a top 10 arm, but Stetson Bennett, he's a walk-on. Now they got some guys on the roster, though, that can play. So how can Kirby Smart manage his QB room so nobody transfers out? Or is that just a reality of college football these days?
Yeah, I think that's a reality of college football. I think why these kids have signed up to play for Georgia is, using Dylan Raiola's words himself is that this is a program that's built to sustain. It's built to last. And the infrastructure and foundation that Kirby Smart has established is that he's not going to play favorites. He's going to roll with the guy that gives him the best chance. Jacob Easton started a bunch of games as a freshman, gets dinged up early in his sophomore season. He was a 5-star stud, one of the top prospects in his individual class. And Kirby turned to Jake Fromm and said, "Hey, here are the keys. You're giving us the best chance to win." He obviously benched JT Daniels, a former 5-star, guy that he did not sign out of high school, but brought in from USC. Rolls with Stetson Bennett when JT Daniels was more than healthy enough by the end of that first championship season to start for Georgia. He did not. He went with the guy in Stetson Bennett that gives him the best chance. So I think that's going to be a dynamic that plays out in this quarterback room. If Brock Vanderbilt is the guy that gives Georgia the best chance to win in 24, that's who Kirby's going to play. If it happens to be Dylan Raiola, then the 5-star freshman's going to get his shot.
And Jesse, how did this happen? How did UGA become a destination for top QBs?
Well, in the past, again, I think when you're talking about the Fields and the Vandegriffs, some of those were the fact that these were in-state guys. Mark Richt and that previous staff made the mistake, famously, of not recruiting Trevor Lawrence the way they should have,
right,
but prioritizing some other quarterbacks in that class. And that ended up being a huge mistake, obviously. Kirby was able to rectify it somewhat because he landed Justin Fields in that same cycle. But Justin Fields was an Atlanta kid. This was a local guy. The fact now that Kirby has just gone out west to Phoenix, this quarterback hotbed right now that's producing all these guys, and beat out Lincoln Riley and USC. Georgia was the first program to offer Dylan Raiola. I think that's important. Obviously, they have the connections with Matthew Stafford. But this is a huge recruiting win. And what it also shows is the confidence that this Georgia offense is going to be to continue to modernize, to continue to be one of the best in the country. Last year, Georgia was top 10 in explosiveness, passing efficiency, touchdowns. This is an offense that Todd Monken to Mike Bobo, there's optimism there that it will only continue, especially when you're surrounded by the 5-star wide receivers and running backs that I think Dylan Raiola is going to recruit to Athens with him as the Pied Piper of that 24 class.
Yeah, that's a great point. Getting Dylan Raiola to commit before the summer months start, that's when all the official visits start taking place. Raiola is going to have a hand in getting some more 5-star talent to Athens. Woo. Well, it's been a big week for Georgia. It's been a big couple of years for Georgia. Congrats to them landing the #1 quarterback in America, Dylan Raiola. And thanks, Jesse, for coming on the Coach's Corner to talk a little bit about it. Thank you for watching. Make sure you smash that subscribe button for me. And remember to check out all the videos on the On3 YouTube page.